Good evening, Washington, D.C., Facebook, Instagram, whoever's watching. Welcome to the Straight Up Talk with Earl Rush show. And you guessed it, I'm Earl Rush. Today we have a fabulous guest, special guest on our show today. His name is Michael Andino, and he has been a fixture in the Philadelphia, South Jersey salsa scene for several years. I've known Mike since I'd say 2000. I knew Mike 3 years before I started stuff on salsa. So I think we started at the eighth floor together. And I met him when he was a real young man, along with Noel and Darlin and all the guys that are stars now. They all started out together at the eighth floor and the Stardust Ballroom. Now, Mike is, as I said, a fixture. He loves to teach kids or adults, 5 to 80, it doesn't matter, blind, cripple, or crazy. He'll teach anybody, and he loves it. Great social dancer, choreographer. He does it all, but we're going to find out more about him. We're going to bring him on right now because I know you guys are busy, and we know Mike is always busy planning his next party or something. So we're going to get straight to it if I can catch up to him. Michael Andino, how are you, sir?
How you doing, Go Earl?
I'm doing really well, really well. It's a honor and a pleasure for you to appear on the show. As I tell the viewers, I know you're very busy, so we appreciate the time. So our interviews are pretty simple. I start from the beginning to where you guys, whoever I interview, grew up, all the way to the situation. So we're gonna get straight to it. Where are you from, and where are your parents from, and when did you first move to Philadelphia or New York, or where were you born at first?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to be here. We planned this about a month ago, and it's been in my brain every single day since, and I can't believe it's here. So thank you. I want to start off with that. As far as my background, my mother is from Ecuador, South America, and my father's Puerto Rican. And I was born in New York, but I was raised in Ecuador, and I came back to the States when I was 10, almost 11 years old. And I grew up after that in North Jersey. If you're familiar with the Hoboken, West New York, North Bergen area, that's where I spent most of my childhood once I got back here. And what brought me to the Philadelphia area is that when I graduated high school, I was a track runner. And I was heavily recruited to come to South Jersey. And I went to Rowan University, where I was an All-American track runner there. And while I was there, I was, typical college student. I was an attorney. I worked 40 hours a week. I was in the track team. In my working hours, when I wasn't working and doing everything else, I found out about salsa dancing through a commercial on the radio, and there was a split second that we had the Mega in Philadelphia, and they had this commercial that would go todos los caminos, and they keep saying salsa lessons from 8 to 9, and for a long time I talked about taking lessons, and I finally one day took the plunge, and I went over there and took a salsa lesson. And I can tell you, my life has never been the same since I took my first basic step.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow. So you went to track when you were a younger man. Did you play any other sports? Did you have any other sports interests at all?
Well, on the streets, I played it all. But as far as where I excel the most is that track is all year long. So we do cross country in the fall, indoor track in the winter, and outdoor track. And then in the summertime, we have to run a lot of long distances to get ready for cross country, which is the longer races, which is like 3 miles. So I ran track pretty much every day since 8th grade all the way all through college. So if you would have seen pictures of me back then, I graduated high school at 118 pounds, and by the time I was done with college, I was only 125 pounds. I've gone as high as to 190, and right now I'm about 145.
Yeah, I see you working out sometimes. Before I got hurt, I was working out with you. I see you online, and I said, "Let me try to keep up with Mike just a little bit." So you've been used to staying in shape all your life. That's why you always look good.
Yes, for the most part. I mean, I went through a time that I got so involved into dancing and partying that I let myself go between 2008 and 2012. So I still would go to the gym and do things, but like I said, my weight went all the way up to 190 at one point.
Wow, Mike. Hmm, okay, all right. Wow, things happen. What can you say? You were having too much fun.
And that's exactly what was happening. I was having way too much fun.
Okay, so we're in college, and you hear the commercial. And so, where was your first salsa class taken?
So I heard the commercials, and at that time I was dating somebody that loved to dance, and we got into the stage in our relationship where things were a little bit rocky, and we really didn't have much in common because I was so involved with work, fraternity, school, and she was more of a social butterfly where I wasn't. So I took 2 weeks of salsa lessons, um, and then I took her to this place called the A Floor, and my first salsa instructor ever is the lady that changed my dancing life was Barbara Capaldi. I walked in
Wow.
there, and we happened to be in the elevator together going up. I don't know if she remembers this, but I didn't know she was the instructor. I just looked at this stunning woman that was next to me, with this sparkling dress, and with the hair and the makeup. And I don't know if you remember, Barbara used to wear like the big hair,
Oh yeah.
and then when she came out with the microphone and invited everybody to the middle of the dance floor, and I had no idea what to do. Those of you that have never taken a lesson, and all of a sudden the instructor calls you out in the middle of the dance floor and everybody's supposed to come out. It's a scary moment in your life, and I remember like it was yesterday. And the DJ, I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you've heard this story. The DJ was Mr. Jose Rodriguez himself.
Of course, I remember him. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We went to the A floor at the same time. I did some research. You said about 2000. That's when I saw you guys up at the A floor. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was like the Copacabana of Philadelphia for a very long time.
The A floor was my second favorite place in the Jersey Philly area. Of course, the Stardust was like, it's my favorite venue of all time, you know. But I remember the A floor just like it was yesterday. And, we used to come up there all the time.
Yeah, go. I remember. I mean, we used to watch you at the end of the night and just in awe of watching you and Kelvin just dance and do your thing. And I'll be like, one day I'll be able to dance like that guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you surpassed me, but what things happen. So I want you to tell some of the viewers just give the experience of the A floor, like the different rooms they had and the people that were coming in, the type of dancers.
So it's called the A floor because the club happened to be on the A floor. And the first 7 floors were abandoned. There was nothing going on. And the only way in and out of this club was an elevator. And you will come out of the elevator. And if you came out after the dance lesson, there was 2 clubs. And the one that was facing the windows and the other one was us. And we were divided by a bar. So if you went to the right, you would hear hip hop and American music, and then if you went to the left, you would hear salsa. Back then, bachata was not in yet, so you would either hear salsa and a sprinkle here of merengue. And then when you would go get a drink, you didn't know whether to start doing some hip hop or to keep doing your basic, because you will hear both sounds left to right, and it was a great mix. And you know what? Somebody, and I should say this to myself. Some of us should get together one day and try to mimic that. See if you can go to a bar and halfway through go into hip hop, and then when you get done, the closest I have is when I do Brazil's nightclub, but I have the second floor, south side, and the downstairs hip hop. But it does not have the same dynamic, and it was magical to be in the A floor because it was like everybody got dressed up, and back then it's not like we have now. Now we can go dancing 7 nights a week, and each night has 3 nights to go to, so you get to pick and choose. Back then, you wanted to dance, you only got to pick. The Stardust was every other week. Some of these events only happen once a month. The Stardust used to happen. I mean, A floor was the only one that was in a weekly event. So you build your life. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a little secret, Gogo. I think I might have told you this. I moved from away from the university to be closer to my dance events.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have to drive back home 35 minutes every night. So,
Mhm.
so we moved to Maple Shade because it was right next to the river, so we can get to Philadelphia and the Stardust and the atrium, everywhere we needed to go. Everything was 15, 20 minutes away because, time is of the essence. You need to get to that club. You want to get your first step in. And back then it was so crazy that that's all we wanted to do was get your stop and go dancing.
I know it, man. I loved it. I used to come up there. I would come up to the eighth floor every week. I was working from 6 a.m. to 6 in the evening. Then I would go home, take a shower, catch the train, Union Station, go up, party at the Stardust. We go get some steak subs, and then I go back on the train, come back home, shower, go back to work. So I was doing this for like 5 years, and I get to hang out with all of you guys. I get to dance with Sonia and Barbara when they were
Yeah.
very, very fabulous, fabulous dancers. They still are. But
Yes.
we grew up with so many people. We came up with so many people from there. And of course, we have to talk about the Stardust because I don't think there was any other place like the Stardust on the East
No.
Coast, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I'll tell you a little story about the Stardust, and I've Gogo. We've shared so many stories that I'm sure I probably mentioned these stories to you, but we haven't shared them in a very long time because I've been so busy in Philadelphia that it's hard for me to get to you. And I appreciate all your invitations, I'm going to get to you. I promise. After this whole craziness happening, I promise you, I will show up to one of your, the New Year's events, one of the major events, because anyway, so the Stardust. The first time I went to the Stardust, I had been taking a couple of lessons. I felt like I was. They were telling me how serious this place was, and I think it was the third Saturday of the month. Am I mistaken? Was it the third?
Second and fourth. Second and fourth. Every second.
Second and fourth. Okay, I know that it was one of those.
Mhm.
It was like separated, and I thought I was ready. And I remember thinking that I was some hot shit, and I am a great dancer, and I'm gonna go to the Stardust, and I'm gonna show everybody that I belong in the Stardust. Go. 15 minutes in, I got up and left. Because the Stardust at the time, what people don't realize is that although the eighth floor was a club, the Stardust drew all the major players from the East Coast. And not just in salsa. If you were a hustle champion, if you were into West Coast, all the major players that were in the dancing world. And remember, back then, salsa was not like considered to be a major player in the dance world. We just had amazing music with dancers that had the potential to be great, but we were just doing crossbody lead and inside turns. And I remember sitting there and watching people lift people up and splits and all these dips and they would just travel. And I'm like, I am not ready for this. And I got up about 15 minutes, 20 minutes into it, and I left so upset. But the good news is that it gave me a goal. It gave me a reason to never miss class, to always listen to my instructors, to practice what they were preaching, to to want to travel, we started a performance class. We were barely we could barely do anything, but we started a performance group and just practicing all those hours. And I wanted to feel comfortable in that kind of atmosphere. And I'm a little bit of an introvert. So me being in the clubs and dancing to me was a big thing because that's what I always felt uncomfortable with. I didn't like dancing socially because for one, I didn't know that I could dance. Two, I just never felt that I was good enough. So when I finally got good enough, I go to the Stardust and my dreams get crushed again. I'm like, what's going on? It's almost like you graduate high school and you go to college and you're a freshman in college and they tell you you're a little guy again and get out of here. You don't belong here.
Well,
So,
yeah, I know what you mean. The reason I had gone up to the Stardust, well, Rick and Kelvin, Rick had met Bernie up there, and
Oh,
Bernie told Rick to come up to
jeez.
Stardust, and Kelvin and Rick and I and Tanya, Go Tanya, from the news, we would come up every second and fourth Saturday, and we did this for like I say 3 to 4 years straight. I would go to the eighth floor and we would go to the Stardust. Sometimes we would go to the atrium, not Barbara's atrium, the other atrium over in Jersey across. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I wasn't. That was before my time.
Okay, yeah, they had an atrium in Jersey there when Juan was over there. Juan Calderon was over there. So I was going to Zanzibar and I was loving it, but we came up to Philadelphia and I started partying on the weekend on Friday and Saturday in Philly. Like I said, for 3 to 4 years, and I was never really partying down in DC because, as you said, it was so many people from New York, Jersey, people traveling from all over to come to the Stardust. It was a ballroom that had 5,000 square feet, and back then that was a lot. The parking lot would be packed, and people dancing all types of styles there. So it was a great thing. But who knew, Mike, that you would end up being one of the men of the dance scene from back then to now? That was crazy.
Yeah, it was, and my vision. You enter. This is it's weird. Like it's happening right now. Every time somebody talks to me about the path of my life, um, most of the great decisions and things that have taken me somewhere have been. Either it's either been an accident or somebody has pushed me into it. And salsa was something that I got pushed a little bit bully, not bully. That's a bad word. But I definitely was encouraged and pushed into this into this wonderful world of dancing, from being pushed to take my first salsa lesson because I wanted to make my relationship work. And my I went to school to be a teacher, to be a history teacher, and my dance teacher Barbara Capaldi would always compliment me on how I would explain things, and she was the one that forced me to become. And I mean, force is that people were asking for private lessons from me, and I was like, I'm a student, and she's like, no, you're gonna do private lessons, and I'm gonna be next to you. And she's like, and you're gonna do it, and your teacher tells you something, and you do it. And little by little, I realized how great it felt. You can share dance with somebody, and I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Well, I just felt good that I was able to express myself and share the little bit that I knew. And it just kept evolving. Even when it came to promotions, Barbara taught me how to dance. Sonia taught me how to be a businessman. Before that, I mean, in between that, there was another beautiful lady, Evelyn Figueroa. I had the privilege of working at her studio for a little bit, and she got me into the culture a little bit deeper because she was more of a traditional salsera, and she felt the music, understood the music a little bit different because she grew up with the music. And a combination of those three ladies, by the way, they are the true pioneers of the Philadelphia salsa scene. I call myself a second generation with the rest of the people that you mentioned, the Darlene Garcias, the Eli Torres, the Jessica Moyas. We came as a result of these wonderfuls. Joe Figueroa started with Evelyn. Eli was dance partners with Sonia, and Darlene Garcia, Jessica, and myself were part of Barbara. So, and those are the people that you will see at the eighth floor. And eventually we all grew in different ways, and we were all like just dance together in the scene. And little did we know that we were shaping the beginning of what I feel, and I could be very biased, but I feel that the Philadelphia salsa scene has one of the most diverse and strongest dance community in the world. I mean, not many cities can say you can go dancing 7 nights a week, can go to 4 or 5 quality dance studios and get good instruction and positive energy from these places. So, and that was the beginning of all that. Nobody knew what we were doing, that where this was going, and 20 years later, here we are.
That's crazy, Mike. That's crazy. 2000, it's 20, that's 20 years I've known you.
20 years it's been. Yeah, I think that was like 3 years old.
You know, and you don't age at all. You look fabulous.
Uh, Listen, it's work, but thank you. I appreciate it.
So I've told the story 8,000 times, but I'm going to tell it 8,001 more time. So I was telling the story about when I came up to the Stardust one evening, and Kelvin and Rick couldn't come, and Tanya didn't come, and I drove by myself. And you knew I was cheap and broke, and didn't have money for a hotel, and you said, Earl, you can stay at my house. And I never forget that day. And we talked, and you on the couch and you said, Earl, I'm tired of working for the bank.
I remember I was working for a bank. Yeah.
I want to be my own boss. That's what you told me. 2 weeks later, I looked up. Mike has quit his job at the bank. What made you make that move, Mike?
Um, Truth be told, Earl, I've been very fortunate. I've made a lot of good decisions, and I've taken risks. But I've been able to take risks because I haven't gambled in other parts of life. So I was able to let go of the bank because, for one, my student loans were paid off. I had no debt in my life. I didn't have any kids. I really if this is time to take a chance and start something, do it when you have my car was paid off. The only thing I had to pay was my cell phone at the time and my rent. So I saved up about $20,000 that I made at the bank, and I said, if I don't do it now, I don't know if I ever will. I also was very people like Barbara and Sonia and other people really they believed in me before I believed in me. They really believed in my teaching, and they kept I don't know, you're familiar with Lisa Pender. She was my first manager, and she was one of the first people that was asking me to become an instructor and teach me, and you have to practice with me. You're so great, and these are the people that influenced me and gave me the courage, because I really was hesitant. But it was a really easy decision. Even though I had a great job, I was teaching at the bank, I was happy with what I was doing. But the only way to advance in the bank is for management and manage people. And I was like, I need to be teaching. I need to have that one-on-one interaction. I need to communicate and get feedback and give it back and make each other better. And I knew that management was not for me. I need to be to be an instructor in some way, shape, or form. And that was the beginning of that. We started a kids group, and the rest, just kept building on.
Why kids? Because that was a brilliant move. But I would imagine you love kids, but that back then that was a brilliant move, and you still teach them.
Yeah.
Why did you pick kids?
That was an accident too. So the kids came about because all the people that I was doing private lessons with, they all had kids. So they were like, we need to get my kids involved so I can dance more, right? I guess. So it was supposed to be a one-time performance. It was Jose Rodriguez was one of the organizers of the Penn's Landing Festival.
Yes.
And they wanted a choreography, and they reached out to me. They're like, can you, the parents got together. We were practicing everybody's living room, and even Serrano was a big part of that. And we would spend most of the time in her living room, clearing out the couches. And it started out as a kids group. It was supposed to be a one-time thing. And right before the kids go on, Jose Rodriguez says to me, "What's the name of your group?" And we all looked at each other like we didn't think of a name of a group. Like, I don't know why we didn't think of the name. So before Facebook, before Instagram, before all this craziness that we have, the only way we used to keep in touch with each other was to chat rooms. And I don't know if you remember, Jose Rodriguez used to have joserodriguez.com.
Yes.
And you need to have a nickname. Mm-hmm. So back then, in the beginning, most of my classes were men's styling classes, because there was no male instructors. And for some reason, males wanted to look like me when they were dancing. So people would literally, every studio, all three studios, when they first hired me, the class they gave me was men's style, so that men can dance straight up. And because the truth be told, we have female instructors, so we had a very feminine way of us dancing.
Right.
Um, but I somehow, I don't know why and how, but somehow my style has been basically the same. So my nickname on this chat room was Con Estilo, which means with style.
Right.
So when they were about to go on, we're like, kids con estilo, and they were announced for the first time ever. Little did I know that the word estilo from a
Mhm.
chat room will be a kids group, and 2 or 3 years later, ended up being the name of my studio, Estilo Dance Studio. So
Wow.
that, like I said, accidents and things happen for a reason. Somebody said to me the other day that a life is written and there's boundaries. It depends on how where you decide to take it. And I think that somewhere along the way, that name Estilo came about, and it just decided to stick with me.
Wow. That's and except for Grupo Fuego, they were like the second kids group that we can remember as far as that.
Yeah, yeah. The Grupo Fuego was based out of North Philadelphia, and they were before us.
Yeah.
But they were in North Philly, and the organizer from there was doing things inside of that community. But it wasn't, I was more from the Jersey side, so I know that I'm known as the Philadelphia guy. But
Right.
truth be told, that I'm a Jersey boy that
Right.
lives in Philly.
Right.
And sorry, Philly, but I am a North Jersey guy. That means that I'm a New Yorker. That means that I follow the Giants. Yes,
Mhm.
the one-win Giants, and the Yankees and the Knicks that have not won forever. But I live in Philly, and I appreciate and I respect the city. I love the vibe that we have here in Philly. I believe that it has the perfect nickname, the city of brotherly love, because this city has given me so much love and so much to be grateful for. That I don't see myself going anywhere unless
Mhm.
something happens, another accident happens along the way.
Well, a lot of things people don't know that. Well, I think a lot of people know. Let me not say that. I don't think it's hyped up as much. Uh, Besides Jose Rodriguez, Philadelphia has a whole lot of very, very good DJs as far as bachata and salsa. And I'm sure a lot of people know. They may not know like I know because I've been there more. But I always wanted to have a battle between the DC uh, DJs versus the Philly DJs. That would be one heck of a party, but I can't afford to pay all those DJs. They have to be at
Maybe
least
we can get together and we can do this together, go go.
5 on each side, but they have great music. So, I mean, just tell us some of the people that you came up like with the Stardust. Well, you mentioned Darlin and you mentioned Rodriguez, Jessica, you mentioned Noel. There were a lot of other dancers from Philly. Just name a couple of few that you came up with as well.
Well, I'm gonna go back to the beginning because some of these people, and by the way, you're right. We do have amazing DJs, and some of them have been DJing for 2 years, and some of them have been DJ for 20 years. And I have much respect as long as they do their homework, they understand music, they give credit to new school, old school, because it's like you saying what's better, vanilla or chocolate. I think that you cater to your crowd and you appreciate and respect every type of salsa, and I'm a true believer of that. That you don't put down any specific type of salsa, whether the nickname bubblegum or whatever. That has a historical part in what salsa is today. With that being said, one of the first DJs that I ever worked with was, of course, the DJ that the first song to take my first step, Mr. Jose Rodriguez. He's what I believe is like he's the legend here. But may he rest in peace. Sugar Ruiz was amazing.
Mhm.
DJ La Clave, who now lives by you,
Yeah.
he was one of my best friends, still is one of my best friends, and he was always a man that always would put me in my place, and because he speaks the truth, and when he says something, it's because that's the way he feels, and I love him for always telling me how things are, and were. But Philadelphia in the past few years has come across a lot of great DJs. You know, we have Philly Boy, you know, and that started out as a dancer, somebody who loves the music, and he's a stud. He's a great student of life. I call him a student of life because you can put him in the desert and he'll figure out how to make something on fan aside from glass, you know.
Yes,
And
yes,
he has done a great job with, you know, researching his music. You know, Miguel LeBron, we have here. You know, I'm sure. I hope nobody gets offended if I forget because there's so many great DJs.
there's so many of them, so
Yeah.
many of them. David Ortiz. I used to
Oh my
listen
God! You know, if you're listening to,
to that,
yeah, of course.
driving up to Philly. You got a bunch of them. Big George. I can't name everybody. Big Boy Bachata. I
Yeah.
mean, I be naming DJs all day. Wong Kong. I didn't know Wong Kong was from Philadelphia. He's a beast.
Who's that? Say it again.
Hong Kwan.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes.
Yes, yes. He's a beast doing the Kobe thing. So it's a lot of DJs, but we didn't want to leave anybody out. I guess that was a loaded question because somebody's going to say tomorrow, "Hey,
Yeah.
but it's a great thing." So, when did you first start becoming a promoter? Did you have events to make money for your studio, or were you making money in the clubs as well as your studio? Which started first?
Um, Once again, it was an accident. So I was uh, I I was hired to do lessons in clubs, and promoters started the club owners or the bartenders and the people inside the club started noticing that when I would teach, there was a different vibe, a different crowd. There was more people. There was more hype. And this is before Facebook. This is just because if I was working somewhere, I would announce it in my classes, and my students would come, and I would give them that attention. And one of the things that I've always been proud that I do is that I'm very proud to say that I am a dancer, and I definitely want to make sure because of the person that I was raised as a dancer that I felt uncomfortable. My number one job is to make the people that feel uncomfortable comfortable. So I think that along those lines, some people that felt uncomfortable or only felt comfortable when I was doing an event, they would come and they would bring other people, and it just became that. And the first place that gave me the opportunity to have my own night was Brazil's nightclub.
Okay.
Their Friday night was jumping. Wednesday night with DJ Jay Rockwell, which is another pioneer DJ in Philadelphia. You know, on a Wednesday night, 200 people will show up. You couldn't stand anywhere because there was nowhere to stand or dance. And you know what? And we loved it. We loved it. So Saturday night was empty for them. And they noticed that whenever I would teach there, because I would teach there, then go down the block to Cuba Libre and perform and then come back, their nights were better. So they came up to me and they said, "We want you to have this night." And that was the beginning. Jay Rockwell was the first one to give me my own event. And I was just being paid as an instructor and giving a little bit of a kickback for bringing people there. But that was the beginning of that. My first true time doing something was when Clave and I collaborated to do Sunday nights, and that was Alfie's. I don't know if you remember Alfie's. Alfie's was like the first Sunday night that was the best Sunday night. And then along the ways, I started using a club to fundraise for dance groups because we had a professional dance group, but it was, costumes are expensive, So we used to do these events called First Thursday at Brazil's, and 100% of the money went to the dance group so that we can travel, pay for their expenses, pay for their costumes, and that built the name up. And, after the dance groups went there, everybody got married and went their own different ways. I've just decided to use promotions as a different way, and I've teamed up with different people. Some of my events are just by myself. Some I team up with other promoters, and as long as people come out and enjoy themselves and share the love for dance and communicating with people on the dance floor like you and I do, I think that it's every single time, whether I make a penny or even if I lose $50, it's worth it to me as long as people are happy out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, you've always been known as a smooth dancer. I was telling people, I know you when you used to dance on one, but I remember when you used to travel up to New York as well, and you were getting respect from the New York dancers as well. We both know it's not easy to get respect from New York dancers because they're the hardest critics in the world.
Yes.
So when the New York ladies dance with you, then that means you've arrived. And I knew that you used to go up there and study a bit, and I knew ladies who spoke highly of you. So, what made you go into the on two thing?
You know, when Darlene Garcia and I, we were roommates, and this we would go to congresses, and people would talk about this on two thing, and we were like, what's this on two thing? And Barbara would try to explain to us, and at one point I remember I was saying like, we're never going to do that, you know. But then we realized that it's something that if you want to be an instructor and if you want to master your craft, you can't just be a one-trick pony. You need to make sure you diversify. You find other ways. So Darling and I, for like 6 months straight, every single Sunday, we would drive out to New York and go to Eddie Torres classes
Mhm.
and take 4 hours of his classes, have an hour break, run to Jimmy Anton's, dance the whole time, run back. This is when text messaging first came into effect. He got on his phone, I got on my phone, and we would like text message as many people as we knew, meet us at Tierra Colombiana, just so that we can practice. And I'll be honest, he picked it up immediately. It took me 6 months, 6 months to get a hint of what dancing on two was. But like I said, Earl, I don't quit. If it's something that I really want and I want to master it, I do it. I enjoy dancing on two. Um, a lot of people don't know that I can do it, and I can still see faces when people see me dancing and they're like, "What is he doing?" I was like, "Just because I don't do it all the time doesn't mean I don't do it."
Right.
And there's a different feel dancing on two. I absolutely love it. I respect on two, like what it brings to the music, what it brings to your body, and I think that everybody should master one and move on to the other. Whether you're on two, master that, move on to one, because when we go dancing, you have to figure out what the other person wants to do or what their strength is and go towards that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So, all right. So we have the parties now, but things are getting hectic. It's like you're adding more venues or you're adding more nights, and as you said, for whatever reason, everybody wants to come to Mike Andino's party, and it's getting crazy now. And you've taught thousands and thousands of kids and adults how to dance. How does that make you feel when you go out social dancing and you see people that you first taught having fun?
Go. It's a great question, and sometimes I don't realize it until I'm driving back home or I'm laying in my bed, or somebody tells me or says a story. Um, and we've been given a gift to be able to share the love of dance, and I sometimes you just can't look at it like that, because that's where we start to think that we're superstars and that we're better than people, and we have been given a specific skill that does not make you better than anybody else. There's every time I talk to people and they tell me what they do in their life, I'm just like in awe that they're in the healthcare profession, they're psychologists, psychiatrists, they're counselors, school teachers. Um, but the one thing I'm very proud to say is that, and the part of the reason why I love my job is because I believe in positive energy, and positive things happen to positive people, and dancing creates a positive energy between two people. And I'm lucky to be able to share that positive energy, and then from that, positive things happen to that person. So I love it when people get married because of dance, or when their self-esteem changes, when they're coming through a bad relationship and they're coming into dance, when their self-esteem changes, when they get in better shape. I mean, there's so many aspects. My older community, they think better. They start to remember things. They start to able to move. They're more agile. I mean, there's so many aspects of dance that can be brought out from being too shy, from, self-esteem is a huge one that we do. And I'm lucky to be able to now, after 20 years of experience, when I look at my students, I'm not looking for them just to know what a Susie Q is. I always say this in my private lessons. Today you're paying me to teach you something, to learn from me, but today I'm gonna learn more about you, because I have to figure out how they learn, why they're here, and not just what a crossbody lead will do for them, but why is it gonna affect their life? Do they need that positive reinforcement? Do they need that you're doing a great job? You need to meet people. And that's where, at the end of the day, I feel like I've been blessed to be able to do what I do. It's an amazing job. I always post it on Facebook. I love my job. I love my job when I hear stories about great things. It's even led me to, I've gotten ordained to be able to marry people that met on the dance floor or in my classes. Now I'm marrying them. I've done that twice, and I'm booked another 2 times now to be able to do that. And that, to me, it's like, what kind of gift you want to give to somebody when they're picking you to be the person who marries 2 people. And those are the days that I'm like, I love what I do. It's not easy. I will never be a rich man, but I will be a very happy man for the rest of my life.
Well, it can't get any better than that, Mike.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You got to be happy. If you're not happy, what's the sense of being around? So that's the beautiful thing for sure. And Sheila, you remember Sheila McNeil, for Bet You Didn't Know? She interviewed you years ago, and I guess I was trying to hype up the event. I said, well, I didn't know that Mike Andino was an original founder of Artmotion. And Sheila goes on Facebook and says, if you had paid attention to the interview years ago, you would have known that. So that's a great thing as well. Artmotion is known all over the world now. You're one of the founding members. How did that come about?
Darling Garcia and I were best friends. He was. I'm a couple years older than him, so we met when he was a teenager, and I was in my mid-20s, and we ended up being roommates. And he's always has been able to see dance and music through the eyes and ears of. He's not human sometimes. Things that he sees and the things that he hears. Nobody gives him enough credit for what some of the things that he does. So although I started taking lessons about 6 months before him, it took him about 3 weeks for him to catch up to what I was doing. That's how talented he was as a beginner. And at that time, he was dating somebody. I was dating somebody. We had another friend that was also an amazing dancer. His name is Alex, and he was dating one of my best friends. And the 3 of us started hanging out and always being in different places. And at that time, we were not part of any studio. And one day we just got together and said, let's start a group, and we were talking about what kind of performance we should do. And we were talking about art that moves. And one of the moms said, how about art in motion? And we were all like, that's perfect. So what started out as that choreography, and we stuck around together, As a matter of fact, Estilo Dance Studio was supposed to originally be named Artmotion Dance Studio.
Okay.
But it's you can't start a corporation with 6 bosses, because that's just a recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
So out of the group, everybody had a role. Darling was the artistic one. We had somebody that dealt with the traveling and all that stuff, where I was the one that started a lot of the communications with other studios. I had the keys. At one point, I had the keys to all 3 major studios, and working at Brazil's nightclub, and through one of the studios we were performing at Cuba Libre. So somehow I became like that underlying connecting of the business on the bottom.
Right.
Although I wasn't a flashy dancer, we all took turns teaching. And then when it was time to convert it into a business, we had a meeting, and then the meeting didn't go so well. And I knew that I needed to start a studio. So it was either started as a corporation, which it wasn't going to work. So I let the group keep the name, and I started Estilo Dance Studio. And eventually all the group members all got married and went their own ways. And the man who worked the hardest to build the name of Artmotion, Darling Garcia, ended up with the reward of the name. So he has the name Artmotion. He's the last of the Mohicans of that group, and well-deserved, because he's the one that we used to have a saying, I'll rule Philadelphia, you rule the world. So I will bring Artmotion to Philadelphia, you bring it to the world. So when we would travel, he was the face out there. When we were home, I was the one dealing with all the local stuff. And, So Artmotion was a big part of us, upbringing. We used to travel and take lessons from instructors from all over the world. We traveled for about 2 or 3 years together. A lot of great choreographies. We were learning in the moment, and everything happens for a reason. And I'm so happy that Darlin has continued with the Artmotion movement, and now he's in Turnersville doing his thing and doing an amazing job with that.
Yeah, I tell people, I used to hang out with Mike and Darlin and Noel. They're like, "Sure you did, Earl." Sure, I said, "Yeah, I knew these guys were going to be good." Now I didn't know Darlin would end up being a dad burn world champion. I mean, he always could dance, and he always worked hard. He always had a hard work ethic.
Yeah.
So it was
work ethic. You can't, he's amazing at what he does. He has no fear. He would enter a competition as a beginner, going against the top of the world, and very confident that he's got it. So he definitely had that part of the business. He had that sense that he wasn't afraid of it, of competition.
Most definitely. So let me ask you this, Mike. I can't remember all of them, but I don't remember. Were you ever in any of the dance-offs at the Philly Salsa Fest? Have you ever participated in any of those?
Yeah, go. Yeah, people ask me all the time. When I am not a flashy guy, and I leave the spotlight for the people who want it. I've never been somebody that gets peer pressure into doing that kind of stuff. So whenever there was dance off and all that, I'm told, I personally don't care for competition. I don't care for that and I'll tell you why. First of all, I respect everybody that competes. I'm not judging, and because I think it's almost like saying that strawberry is better than vanilla and vanilla is better than chocolate. Listen, you have your taste. Everybody's got their thing. Okay. So I always felt very uncomfortable on stage. I always felt very uncomfortable on the spotlight. As a matter of fact, this interview, I was stressing for the past couple of days. I posted it on Facebook. And I told you the first thing I said, I'm freaking nervous because I'm an introvert in an extrovert career, which brings a lot of stress to me. So me forcing myself to be in the spotlight, me emceeing events. I don't know if you remember, I asked you to MC a couple of my events and be like, why don't you do it? Because I don't want to be on the mic.
Right.
A lot of the promoters, they're like, no, you need to get out there and talk. And I was like, do I have to? Yes, you have to. So that kind of spotlight is not, I'd rather have that connection with somebody on the dance floor. I'd rather go around and dance with 25 people than get on the mic and address 200.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about DJs and how Roland has gotten so good in such a short time. But he's been partying for a long time, but he sometimes brings a guy who works with you, Chris, down, and he's pretty good. I heard him on the show the other day. He's blossoming to be a pretty good DJ. Chris as well. Chris George, am I pronouncing his name right? Chris George, you know what I'm talking about? Delilah.
DJ con estilo, George Christian. George, he's another one.
What I really want to ask you, Mike, is Delilah's food as good as it looks? That food looks so good.
Oh my God, it's better than it looks. It's better than it looks. Listen, we've had the pleasure to experience her food for years. So absolutely, on Fridays, I used to tease her all the time. I said I have to break my diet. Luckily for the past few weeks, I've been traveling a lot. Okay. So I get the excuse of not to have that food.
That's
But
right.
it's absolutely delicious. And Gogo, you got to come down on Friday so you can have her food.
I
Or come
need.
down.
I want to. I need to taste some of that food, and I got to catch up with Jackie Capel as well. That Jackie can cook some good stuff too. You know. So what I want to tell you is what I admire about you guys back in the days. Even though it was, I used to call you guys studio games because everybody was always competing. But you guys still, even though you were competing, you always still showed love for each other. And even to this day, I smile when I see that you're working with Roland, you're working with Sonia, La Luna, George, everybody. That's one thing about you guys. You guys will always work together, and I really like that about the city for sure.
I appreciate it. We try, one of the things I take pride is that, in the beginning when I started becoming a promoter is why are you hiring other teachers doing a job that you can do? I said, why not? Because they're going to take your crowd and they're going to come take lessons from them somewhere else. And I was like, well, then that's the purpose of me becoming an instructor is to unite and bring people together. So listen, I will work as long as you're somebody that is positive and brings something to the table. I am open to work with you.
Mm.
Not everybody. If you're not that kind of individual, if I feel like you're not true to what you do, I'll don't get it twisted, Earl. It's not everybody that gets that because people will tell you I'm not. I'm a good guy.
So, Mike, I know you're not just gonna work with anybody. Okay, that's understood. I mean, at your status, they're gonna have to bring something to the table, or you could do that most of the stuff yourself. So that's understood. That's just the same here. I'm not gonna work with just anybody. You know, so they have to bring something to the table for sure. That's definitely for sure. Well, Mike, for you to be nervous, you handled yourself very well, and you was. I just wanted to ask you a couple of things about something that some things that you might tell a beginning dancer that might can help them bring their game up just a little bit, or just a little trick or something that might help somebody along the way.
Don't forget to breathe. Sometimes we get into this. Don't forget to breathe, and less is more. Less is more. A lot of times we're so eager to please and think that we have to do so much more on the other side. Handle the simple things of your dance, and the advanced stuff will come. Um, be true to yourself when you dance. Know what you know how to do, but more importantly, know what you don't know what to do. Therefore, you don't do what you don't know, so that you don't hurt the person in the other side by trying to impress them. So, if you're not comfortable with yourself, you can't make the other side comfortable. So understand where you are in your dance life, and there's nothing wrong with being a beginner. As a matter of fact, it's probably the best time of your dance life, the first year of dancing, because everything is so new and every light matters, every move matters, every handshake, every hug, every inside turn. The first time you give somebody a double turn matters. So
Right.
don't be afraid to be a beginner. Don't be afraid to slow it down. Breathe. Enjoy the moment. The music will lead you.
Wow. Wow. Mr. Andino, it has been a pleasure for sure. I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule because I know it's very, very hectic. I think one day when this COVID thing is all straightened out, I think that you and I and Roland need to have a crazy party
Absolutely.
and just make it crazy. But I appreciate you for stopping by for sure. I had a great time. I learned a few things about you, so my mission is accomplished. Mr. Andino, I want to thank you so much. I hope you have a blessed and productive evening.
Thank you, Gogo. Um, Gogo, can I say one more thing?
Of course you can.
I just want to take a little bit of time because I just want to take time to acknowledge the people that came before me, that were with me, and the people that have helped the dance community to where it is today. I mentioned a few of them in the beginning, from Barbara Capaldi to Sonia to Evelyn. I mentioned Clave, but along the way, I got to experience a lot of wonderful people. And I want to make sure that everybody understands, if you ever worked with me, if you were ever in my classes, if you ever gave me feedback. One of the ladies that I want to acknowledge is Delilah. Delilah became my business partner a few years ago when I was ready to give up on the business, and she gave me hope to stay in the business. And along the way, with her wonderful husband, George, which is DJ con Estilo, that we've come a long way. One of our other business partners, his name is Omi. Along the way, I've got to experience a lot of wonderful people that have helped me: Evie Serrano, Lisa Pender, Jay Rockwell. The list can go on and on. But along the way, everybody should know. I've never done this by myself. I've always had people that have helped me with the technical communications, with social media, or just advice and grounding me and be like, stop being a jerk. So for those of you that are watching, that if you know somebody that has helped me, just know, guys, I'm here because I've had a lot of help along the way, and I'm sure I'm going to need twice as much help moving forward. Thank you for having me, Gogo. I look forward to working with you and anybody else that wants to work with me and bring something positive to the dance floor.
All right. Thank you so much. It was great, Mike. Thank you.